All right, everybody. Good morning. This is truly going to be a short live. I know I quite often say that. It turns out to be, a couple hours long. That is not happening today. Um, so the last 24 hours since AWP released their video on how they discovered Kylie Rodni and uh, the interview they had with the tow truck driver and the information from Jared that if if things if things are not done with the in the light of day, then they are prepared to release the full amount of their interview with the tow truck driver in addition to other recordings of other people. So Jared has of Adventures with Purpose. Obviously, Jared has good information. I don't think he's up to no good. I think it's the exact opposite. I think that many of us have watched the press conferences with this police department, or not the police department. Probably the police department has been the least shady, but Nevada County, um, a little bit Nevada for sure, Placer County, and the FBI agent. This has been the press conferences are crazy. So there's something happening in Northern California that we would hope wouldn't happen, where the death of a 16-year-old girl is concerned. So if you haven't seen the video, you do need to go over to Adventures with Purpose. You can join their channel. It's half price, so it only costs you $2.50. And then you can watch the whole video. I'm not going to show it on my channel. There have been some people that have been unscrupulous and done it. I'm not going to do it. But I am telling you, it's worth $20 to go and watch it if you're interested in this case. So that's all I'm going to say about it. Now, in the video with Zav Girl, so Zav went live yesterday to discuss what everybody else was discussing. And while she was on, Jared from Adventures with Purpose came up on her channel. You can go over to her channel. She's pulled that 42-minute section out as a separate standalone video. You can go watch it. It's very interesting. And it really, between that information and the released information, it's yesterday was a wow moment. I mean, it is incredible. Those of us that have said the kids involved in this were making little sense. It's illogical. The things they were doing were irrational, unless they were involved in a cover-up. Then it makes perfectly good sense, So there were a lot of people that were angry and saying, how dare you, how could you, question Sammy and think that she's, well, I'm not questioning her as a human being. I'm just watching her interviews and the reactions that she's having, and they're just so far outside of the expected behavior of many different personality types. Not just what I think a person should look like when they're grieving or sad or scared. I mean, there's no anger. There's joy. There's giddiness. There's no sadness. There's no tears. There's no regret. There's no frustration. It's just a strange presentation. And I said in the beginning, before I ever began making public commentary on it, I said, why is this girl's mom and dad, where are they? Like, do they have any control over her? Or has she already at 18 and with a really extroverted, personality type, has she already kind of flown the coop, and they recognize she's going to do what she's going to do? It doesn't matter what we try to say to her. She is just going to do as she does. You don't know, nobody really knows, but it's really too bad. I think at this point, especially with the developments in the last, well, I would say 24 hours, but for sure like 96 hours since the car was located. I think Sammy is going to come to regret all of the camera time that she took. So today, I think it's things are not looking good right now for the kids that were at the party. Now, one of the things that Jared said was that according to the interview with the tow truck driver, there were two. He made a call for a car that wouldn't start, and turns out it was Kiely's car. It would appear, based on the girlfriend's testimony, that August the 6th is her dad's birthday, and that's why she remembered what day it happened. It was actually the morning after the party that he got called to this CRV that would not start. When he got there, the car wouldn't start, he said, because it was in neutral. And there were two people with the car, a girl and a guy. Now, the guy, he gives a description of the guy, and the guy is, it leads you to believe that it is Jagger, the ex-boyfriend. He does, in the video that's been released, we don't know how the tow truck driver describes the female. Well, later on in the interview with Zav Girl, he says that they know if now let me say this caveat, if we assume that the tow truck driver is being truthful, if we assume that the tow truck driver really did go on this call and really did go to Kiely's car and really did see these two kids, whether it happened on the 5th or the 6th, doesn't matter. If we assume that the tow truck driver is being honest, and right now there's no reason to believe he's not, then the description that the tow truck driver gives appears to be the description of the ex-boyfriend Jagger. The girl is not described in the video that's been released by Adventures with Purpose, but they were very specific and said, yes, we have a lot of information from the tow truck driver. It was all recorded on video, and the tow truck itself had audio and video recording and captured the whole encounter between the tow truck driver and these two kids or young people. It was curious that Jared said they verified who the guy is. That's his exact words. Based on the description, I'm going to assume that they showed photographs to the tow truck driver and said, is this the guy that was there at the car? And the guy said, oh yeah, that's him. Now the question is, whose photograph did he show? Did they show Jagger? But the description does sound like Jagger. But what's not verified, and this is really to me the big deal of the interview. What was not determined is who the girl is. Who the girl is. Which now you're like, wow, okay, so this isn't a case of, so Kiely was alive after the party. Kiely was alive at 11 a.m. on August the 6th. No, that's not what the tow truck driver said, because Jared says we don't really have a verified information on who the girl is, according to the tow truck driver. But they do know who the guy was, according to the tow truck driver. Isn't that crazy? All right. So that then leads us to, okay, so actually it was Kiely's car, but the boy and the girl were not Kiely and some guy. So who were they? So the morning after the party, who has Kiely's car? That virtually guarantees that Kiely did not drive super intoxicated into the lake. So that conversation can just come to an end. Right? Okay. So then you think, wow, the whole world, all this whole internet thing is freaking out, thinking it's Jagger, it's Jagger, it's Jagger. Okay. I've said all along, I just don't feel, I don't have that feeling about Jagger. Well, now on hindsight, spending a lot of time going through social media, I don't know about Jagger. I really don't. I think he could be a good fall guy. You know what I mean? You could make him look like a fall guy without him really being involved. So I'm not altogether ready to, say that it was Jagger. And there is another name that has come up in the discussion among teenagers. Now, I looked into the guy that they're talking about, and this was a guy that Kiely was supposedly recently dating, or at least messing around with. And I looked into the guy, and he may have some connections to people. You know how we kept saying, let me put it this way. You know how we kept saying that Barry Morphew must know someone, that he must be connected, because he seems to get all this preferential treatment, special breaks, Maybe this other guy's dad potentially has some connections that someone might be willing to say, sure, we'll fix this and make it go away. Right? So hold off on this whole Jagger is the culprit guy. I just, he's an easy setup. Don't y'all agree? He would be the guy everybody point out and say, see, he did it. I'm not willing to believe that. Jagger has no tears for his supposed love of the girlfriend. Jenny says Jagger's not the culprit. I'm gonna. If you haven't seen my video Yeah, but let me tell you about tears, Sarah. Tears don't necessarily. It, there's a lot of people that cry at the drop of a hat. If I get angry, I'm going to have tears. But I'm not so likely to have tears if I'm sad or upset about something, because I don't like for people to know that I'm feeling sad. So so I try to keep, my mind distracted away from those thoughts that would prompt tears. But some people, they want to be manipulative with their tears, and they've learned how to put their mindset to like an actress would put their mindset to a point that would evoke those tears. So at this point, I think if we're going to look at Jagger, we're going to say, okay, he looks pretty suspect. There's a lot of those kids that are like that. There's a lot of those kids that look suspect. It is highly suspect that Kate is dealing with a best friend in the whole wide world missing. It's the day after she's gone missing. You're actively riding around to friends' houses and whatnot, looking for her, going, what the hell? Kiely, what are you doing? People don't. People do not jump automatically to, okay, my friend's been missing for 5 hours or 12 hours, must be dead. No, that is the very last thing that you ever want to believe. You do not want to believe that your friend is gone. Your brain will come up with every excuse in the book to avoid acceptance that your friend or your loved one is dead. No, they don't. And so it, just like with the Summer Wells case, the minute that I start hearing parents, their child's been gone at, 24, 48, 96 hours, and they're doing interviews going, yeah, she really loved it when she did this, and she really loved doing that. We sure are going to miss that. That's sure. We just love doing that together. That's going to be something I'm really going to miss. I'm thinking, what? What are you talking about? This is 17. As of today, Kiely is 17. This is 16, 17-year-old girl. Why are you already trying to put her in the ground? She could have run away. There's any number of things that she could be doing, and now trying to figure out, oh, how am I going to go home without my mom and dad freaking out, being mad at me? Oh, I don't want to be in trouble. Oh my God, people are looking at me. What kind of mess have I created? Right? So I'm really a bit bored by the earlier displays of, oh wow, Kiely was such a great girl. She was. She was down to do anything. I that bothers me. Why are you so quick to want to accept that your teenage young adult friend has gone off the radar? Maybe they're with some hot guy in Las Vegas. We don't know. So, in the Chris Watts case, things got crazy like this, right? And tons of stories were coming out, tons of different people, starting up YouTube channels, and well, and there's that too, Sarah. So Sarah said, Sammy immediately said that Jagger was 4 hours away. So yeah, Sammy is Jagger's alibi, which is a little strange. But we have to accept that the cops verified the alibi, right? Wouldn't you think the cops would go to Napa and get some kind of proof where he was? But then we have a problem, right? Sammy says, oh, he lives in Napa. You know, the ex-boyfriend lives over in Napa. But he did come right away. The very next day, he came straight to Truckee to be with her family. Immediately, he came to Truckee. And so you're thinking, well, what does that have to do? Why is that a problem? Well, because now we've got a tow truck driver who says that at 11 o'clock on the 6th, that Kiely's vehicle was not in the bottom of the lake. And there was a guy and the girl driving it around. And the guy is a spitting image, according to the description of the ex-boyfriend. Now it's like, no. No, it's okay that he was in Truckee on the 6th because he came immediately. As soon as he heard, he came immediately to be with the family. So they've got on the 6th in town. Small town police forces are not trained to deal with serious crime because it rarely happens in their area. Think he may have already been in the Reno Truckee area. Well, yeah, and Renee keeps saying that Jagger did shed tears. I really love your channel, but that heart up in the corner is migraine. Where it be? I like that heart. Okay. Could it have been someone driving Kiely's car the next morning, which would explain why they were stuck in neutral? Well, yeah, I mean, allegedly that's the whole point of what Jared is saying, is that the tow truck driver could not verify that it was Kiely driving, but he did verify the guy. The tow truck driver saw a photograph of some guy and said, yes, that's the guy that was with the car. But as of yesterday afternoon, the tow truck driver had not verified a photograph that said a match that was the girl, which is very interesting, right? Because he would have immediately verified Kiely. Her photographs are everywhere. There's all different types of photographs. But there's only a few people. There's some girls that are going to have they're going to be answering some questions. Unique trauma. I think more and more people are getting to that acceptance that now again, this is Captain Sam Brown on the screen. He says during the August 22nd press conference, he says he's not sure if divers went into the Placer Reservoir. He says that. Why wouldn't you have put divers in the Placer? You go back to the last verified known location, which was her phone pinging at the edge of the water. At the very least, wouldn't you have thought these guys would have been diving, searching for her cell phone? That maybe someone took the cell phone and threw it out into the water? At the very least. Correct? So there's something wrong. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, we know the kids have a problem with their story. And I think that I showed on the August 22nd press conference that some of the law enforcement have a definite problem. Something's wrong with this whole law enforcement intra-agency thing that's happening here. Something's wrong. Damien. um, it seems to be Merritt Seeger. It seems to be. Yeah, Denise, I think that was a way for her to say, keep your mouth shut. I think that was her way of saying, everybody keep your mouth shut and we'll get through this. And nobody will have to answer for what accidentally or on purpose transpired at the party or non-party. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still not convinced that there was this big party. You got a line of cars coming in at 9:30 and then leaving again at 12:30. No, that doesn't remind me of any big parties we had. People would come and go all night long. These huge big parties last till 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Our senior parties, we would go to breakfast the next morning. So a, this big senior party, everybody comes in at one time and then everybody leaves at 12:30. Same time, incidentally, that her phone gets turned off or dies. Crazy. You're being asked to believe something that's just simply not possible. Right, Audrey? Exactly. We have later parties than that on YouTube, don't we? I don't know what. Yeah, the mass exodus at 12:30 is the same time that her phone stopped pinging, whether it died or whether it was turned off. Sammy kept saying they kept charging their phone. Why? Because did she know that it was going to be suspect that the phone died at 12:30? Was that why the cops suddenly changed it to, oh, her phone was turned off at 12:30? Her location was turned off at 12:30. What does that mean? There's two. It's two. You're being asked to believe something that defies logic, that defies human behavior. Weird to have driven 4 hours ASAP for an ex. I can't drive across town for my ex when she gets that empty feeling. Yeah, I know one-eyed monster. I no, I I don't know the story of Jagger and um, Kylie, uh, but his social media is it reflects a person who is poetically dramatic in their grief. Now, some people have said that he seems obsessive in a bad way. But I also say, think about Johnny Depp. There's a good example for someone who has a tendency to speak dramatic, the dramatic hyperbole on anything. I mean, it's just his nature. He just kind of goes back to this old English kind of, you know, Jagger's an artist, which would, you know, it wouldn't be unusual for someone who is gifted artistically to have a flair for the dramatic. So I'm not fully willing to accept that the tow truck driver identified Jagger. There is another guy, and I hate to say this. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. But the other guy, here's what I will say. The other guy, it may be connected. The other guy may be connected to someone related to law enforcement. But you also remember, you know, there are Sammy, her mom and dad, what are they, an attorney and a private detective? Now we've got the private detective that interjected himself and then began to undermine the integrity of AWP right before all this information came out about the tow truck driver. Why was SF doing that? Why was he trying to make it look like we couldn't trust and believe what AWP said? Because he's got an agenda. And so I feel like Jagger is Brian Laundrie 2.0. Well, there's a lot of people that are on that fence too, that feel like you do. Hi, forensic astrologer. So I will say this. I took heat in the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie thing. I made a video. I made a stand against the police, the way that Gabby was treated during the police stop. I made it. I said what I believed. And I took a lot of heat. I lost a lot of subscribers. People were angry with me. How can you do that? We got to stand by the police. I know. I understand. I know. I'm definitely not a defund the police. I think we need more police on the streets. But when you see something wrong, you have to say something. And what they did during that traffic stop was so wrong on so many levels. I can't even. I don't want to go back and revisit all that, but it was terrible. And I took a big hit for it. Okay. But then what did we find out? Oh, yeah, there were mistakes made, dramatic mistakes. And if those mistakes had not been made, then very likely Gabby would still be alive today. Or let me say possibly she would be alive. Possibly she would have reached out to her family. Possibly she would have been on her way home. Right? So I'm doing it again at the possibility that people will not like what I'm saying, but I do think that we now have enough information from Adventures with Purpose, the tow truck driver, the inconsistencies in what the police, the various police agencies have said. And then by the very reaction of the FBI agent himself, something's wrong. I can't say it. It's headed for an arrest, Mark. 100%. I believe it in my heart. Yes. Yes. It's headed for an arrest. Well, I'll tell you why, magician. I'll tell you why. Because she was not her friend. There, I said it. They weren't friends. I don't even know how her family can get peace. I believe her father recognizes fully that there is something, they are not even, the official story that's been put out is not even close to what really happened. I think the dad and the grandfather, I think they know. You have to realize, going through Sammy's social media, which is now all gone, right? Going through Sammy's social media, she is her group of friends are a specific type of group. They're a specific type of group. When you go back and look at Kiely's lifestyle and friendship group, it's a dramatically different lifestyle. Two completely different kinds of completely different kinds of girls. In the last minute, Kiely was supposed to go to the car show with her family. And perhaps Jagger, perhaps he was there at the car show. Maybe that's why she was going. Maybe she was going to go see him. But at the last minute, she changed her mind. At the last minute, something happened that redirected her to that fateful night. What was it? What was it? Go back and listen to All American Dream Chaser, his interview with Sammy, and listen to how she says how she became friends with Kiely. Oh, she's my good friend. We met through mutual friends, and only really got close in the last year, 2 months recently. Quote unquote. What? You just made friends in the last year, the last 2 months recently? Let's try the last 24 hours. I didn't, yeah, I don't know what that says, Hillbilly Heart. Now, Kate says that they were hanging out that day making creme brulee. And that's the kind of obscure detail that just makes you feel a little weird in a situation like this. Yeah, we were at our house. We were just hanging out. We were just hanging out. You don't start going through your menu. I mean, that's not the kiss of death. To tell someone that what you were eating or what you were cooking, it doesn't mean you're a liar. Don't get me wrong. But it's not typical to think of that level of detail when you're talking about your best friend or a close loved one that's gone missing. Your thoughts are more time directed. It would have come out more like I was with Kiely from 12 to 3, and then we started getting ready for the party. Right? You're not going to say what you did that whole from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, what you did during that time period. That's not, when you start doing that, when you start saying things like, last time I saw her, everything was normal. We were just like cooking. We were just cooking dessert. Isn't that lamenting the loss of your friend? Like she's passed away. Those are the types of stories you hear at a funeral, right? But when you're talking about somebody who's missing, that you're trying to figure out who might have her. Was foul play involved? Where could she be? Where are all the places she could have gone? What could have transpired? You don't get all bogged down in creme brulee. It's more of, okay, she came to my house. It was like 10, 11 o'clock. We hung out probably till around 3. We didn't leave. We were here the whole time. We got ready for the party. When we left the party, we stopped at the little convenience store. We got some drinks, some beer or whatever, and then we went on to the party. Am I right or wrong? Again, it's not magic. It doesn't mean that, oh, she said they made creme brulee. That proves she's lying. No, no, no. It's not what I'm saying. But I am saying it's cause to sort of have your ears perked up and go, hold on a minute. This is a bit odd. DB says the only thing that should have been on her tongue was, where is my friend? It's uncomfortable. All right. Okay. I promised y'all this was going to be short. I promised you. Okay. So don't be so quick to say it's got to be Jagger. There is another person involved that looks like the description. So let's just be careful. Cancel. What's your real name? So keep an open mind about Jagger. He's a pretty easy target to point your finger at. It doesn't mean he's not involved, but I don't think that people seem to be convinced that's him. There is another person that description would definitely fit, and he is connected. So, or let me be a little more measured. He may be connected. That may be a better way to say it. But the big question, the one we're really hoping for, is who's the girl? Who is the girl that was with the car? That's the big question. That is the big question. All right. Y'all have a wonderful day. Thank y'all so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. Please hit the thumbs up. That helps the algorithm be my friends. And I'll be back. Y'all have a great Thursday. Bye.